Hello, everyone. I'm Sam Eckmann of Gold Derby here with the wonderful Noah Reid from the new play The Minutes on Broadway. And congrats, Noah, on your Broadway debut, I should say, first off. And there's a unique aspect of this play in that Tracy Letts, the playwright, is also, a central figure in the story, and he's on stage with you. What is that? What's that dynamic like? Is there pressure that to have the playwright, sitting there opposite you in the scene?
There's pressure in all of it, but I think the beautiful thing about having Tracy there is that his this play obviously has come from his brilliant mind, and he knows it well. He knows the rhythm of it. And he's also a terrific actor who comes at it with an actor brain and a company member brain. And so you don't feel like the playwright is. I think it could feel pretty intense if you felt like the playwright was just looking over your shoulder the whole time. But really, he's the mayor of Big Cherry when we're out there, and it's what a gift to have him there. It's really quite remarkable to get to start the show with him.
Yeah. Is he a playwright that is very exacting with the words he's using? It seems like everything is very purposeful in his scripts.
I think so. Yeah. I mean, it's the kind of I feel like his writing has a real kind of musicality to it, a real rhythm to it, and it works best when it's being hit directly, and when those words are being chosen and communicated with intention. It's not the kind of thing I find sometimes I get caught in this, like in Mr. Peel's awkwardness and stammer through things. Those shows, I think, well, yeah, it's not. I didn't quite deliver the idea of that as cleanly as I'd like to. I think that this writing just requires a kind of a muscularity and a clarity of thought. Really, that's what it comes down to, in order to get its message across as effectively as possible.
Yeah, and the Minutes, way back before pandemic times, did get through a few previews, but you weren't involved with it at that point. So what is it like in your Broadway debut to kind of walk into a rehearsal room where there's already a group of actors who have a familiarity with each other and with the script, and you're kind of the new guy on set?
Yeah, it was very strange. It was very strange and also very appropriate. I mean, that is, if you're going to do that with any play, this is a good one to do it with, and a good character to do it with, because that is exactly Mr. Peel's situation. Walking into an established group of people, a unit of people who all know each other and have established their rhythms with each other, and have a shared history, and he's playing catch up. And I definitely felt that way for the first little bit, just kind of getting my bearings and moving to New York and kind of all of the wonderful uprooting that we do as actors on every project, it seems like. That first day of school feeling is real, but I found it helpful in the character study of it all. I could kind of rely on that and have some firsthand experience of what that would feel like. And and I gotta hand it to my castmates, who were just the loveliest, most welcoming group of people, and Anna Shapiro, who is just an absolute force and a terrific human being, and the reason I'm here, really, I think. And so yeah, I was welcomed with open arms, probably more so than Peel was.
What's interesting about his character too is, I think he could maybe be classified in some terms as like the comedic straight man in the play, which I always feel like is sort of a hard job for an actor when you're surrounded by a lot of other zany people, because there's no shtick to fall back on. So what was your approach? How did you approach like characterizing him?
Yeah, I mean, I think the beautiful thing when I first read this script, you know, I think about the first time that I read this script a lot, because that's the time when I didn't have all the information that the audience doesn't have. And that is also the information that Peele doesn't have. And so the audience and Peele are connected in that way. And I think, you know, there is something beautiful about playing what you don't know and chasing the information. And you know, you do get kind of, I think Mr. Peele gets kind of ping-ponged around, certainly for the first chunk of the play, and as he's trying to figure out just what maybe happened last week. You know, I mean, I think it's really an active listening job for me to try to piece together things, but of course not piece together things too quickly or things that I shouldn't be piecing together. I don't know. I mean, I don't think it's playing dumb. I think that he is a really intelligent man who, you know, has probably not experienced as much success in his life as maybe he thought he should, or maybe he felt he was promised. Anna would talk about the kind of the promise of the Western male, and this notion that we're all supposed to be these successful, powerful, you know, intelligent beings who succeed at all costs. And Peele's circumstances at the beginning of the play are that he's lost his mother, that he has a young child. He's just come back from his mother's funeral, and he's in the last couple of years uprooted his life to this small town where his wife is from, and started a dentistry practice, and doesn't seem like maybe it's going as well as he'd like it to. And so I think he's grasping for importance. He's grasping for purpose. He wants to make a contribution, and he's, you know, trying to overcome those thoughts and feelings of you're not enough. And he wants to matter. He wants to contribute. So with all of that in mind, when there is this missing piece of information, it's a balancing act of how far do you push? How much do you pursue it? And you know, if that makes other people uncomfortable, how do you adjust to that? And how do you fit into a group, but also, you know, get what you need when you feel like you're being left out of something?
Yeah, I was kind of struck by that because I don't want to spoil any major plot revelations because there's many of them, but you know, a central thing early on is these missing minutes. And it's so interesting to watch a man who's the newbie actually speak up. And you know, you end up wondering, would we all speak up in that scenario? Where does that come from for him? Where does he find that strength to do that?
It's interesting because as we've been running the play, I'm really keenly aware that there are about 4 or 5 moments throughout the play where he sticks his head up, and you know, every time he gets punished a little bit for it. But I think that, you know, what the ideal that he has, and I believe that this comes from this has to be a generational hand down, you know, and the absence of his mother and the turning of the generational page from being a son to being a father, as this obligation to set the example, and to lead by example, and to live the kind of way that you have been taught to live, and set the example for the new generation. So I think that he, as a council member, feels that he's in a position to have some effect on the way that things are run, and he wants things to be done right. I think he's probably somebody who is like, has a little bit of OCD, maybe, has a hard time just letting things slide, is genuinely a nice person, I think, but also, you know, wants things to be done the right way. And certainly if they're not done the right way on the city council, then, you know, that has a ripple effect into the rest of the world, and you know, for his family and everybody else's family. So I think, you know, for a certain kind of person, you just feel like I have to say something. If I don't say something, then who will?
Yeah. I think the play ends up, people have a lot to talk about after it's over, when they're leaving the theater. And I was surprised at how much it really feels like it speaks to the moment, considering Tracy wrote it, I think, several years ago.
Yeah.
Were you shocked by how much it feels so prescient to right now?
Oh yeah. I think, the shocker of it really is that it was written pre Trump's presidency, because it feels like in the years since that moment, I think Tracy said he started writing it around the time of the Hillary Clinton Donald Trump debates, and since that moment, it's just gotten, the groove that this play exists in has gotten deeper and deeper and deeper, I think. And that's not really been great news for America, but I think I think that it definitely highlights the play. And it's very interesting to have so many people in the show who have done this. They did this production at Steppenwolf in 2017, and then a lot of those cast members were in the 2020 edition that almost opened on Broadway, and now to be here in 2022 doing it. I think a lot of people have echoed this sentiment that the words of the play haven't shifted all that much in that time, but the effect of them and the cost of them is greater, given the several years we've all been through. And I think the pandemic and a lot of the kind of the social justice and racial inequality awareness and all of these elements of our society that were really on full uncomfortable display through the pandemic, and through that presidential election, and statues coming down, and indigenous children's body remains being found at residential schools. All of this stuff, feels like it really, like it's speaking to the play as much as the play is speaking to it. And that's pretty remarkable, given that, a lot of this stuff hadn't really come to light in the same way when the play was written. But, it speaks to how potent that kernel is, that spark that this play came from. It's always been there.
And in thinking about just kind of the rhythm of the script and the language, it really flows seamlessly between comedy and drama to me. Like, there'll be laughter 1 minute, and then your character might have this huge outburst the next. How conscious of you are like playing with the tone of the piece, or is that not something you think about when you're up there?
I don't know. I mean, I think for me, when we started doing full runs of this play, it felt like when it took off, it kind of took off. And I don't leave the stage, and it feels like, at a certain point, it's just happening, and I'm kind of trying to catch up to it. And now, as it's settling a little bit, I think, like Peele, I have this feeling that I can, perhaps a naive feeling, but that I can have some effect on this situation. I can, shift this one way or the other. And, that is a really interesting and dangerous proposition, because A, you can't as much as you think you can. And B, you kind of, you're on the ride just like everybody else. I do feel connected to the audience in that sense, that when this play takes the turns that it takes, I'm taking that turn with them, and we're in the same boat. And to that end, the audience feels like a really important element of the play, that their involvement in it, that their existence, their presence there is important, and it's felt. they're not just watching it. They are in many ways the members of the town council themselves.
Yeah. Well, I want to pull back for a minute before I let you go, because you were involved in this, little show called Schitt's Creek, which kind of took over the world and got many of us through the pandemic. I know it did for me. I won't admit how many times I've watched it straight through to you. But now you have your Broadway debut. You have an album coming out. You have, this new show, Out of Range. So now that you have, other pieces of your career in place and a little distance from the end of Schitt's Creek, looking back on it, what's sort of the thing you take away from it and carry with you the most?
I think it's the people. On any show that has that reaches that level of success, there has to be a connectivity within the people. And I don't just mean the cast, I mean the entire crew and everyone who worked on that show. It was really a very special group and a very special time. And I don't know. I think that will be a thing that continues to evolve in my in my brain and in my memory. But I know that when we were doing it, I felt very lucky to be there. And then when people started paying attention to it, it was wild to see that reflected and how much it meant to so many people. And particularly given this time, a lot of people say what you said, which is that it really helped them get through a brutal time. And that balancing act of humor and heart, never getting too sappy, never getting too outrageous, those things kind of keeping each other in check. And obviously the kind of the brilliance of that cast and the writing. I mean, there's a bit of alchemy in all of this stuff. And I don't know, I have found myself recently in some really excellent ensembles. And I think that is such a gift to get to work with people that you respect and love. And that's where the contribution, that's where the Mr. Peel version of myself is like, oh, maybe I could make some kind of contribution, but I don't have this kind of go it alone mentality. I think that, the strength of all of these things that I've been involved in, even my music with, my bandmates and my producer, you rely so much on the people that you're going into creative battle with. And it's, I certainly was lucky in the Schitt's Creek world with that one.
Yeah, well, it's another great ensemble here. So it's great to watch you on stage. Congrats on your Broadway debut. And for everyone who's out there watching, make sure you subscribe to Gold Derby and keep up to date with us throughout this season. Noah, thank you so much.
Thank you.